Hey family, Pastor Mel, week number 4, day number 17. Of course, the essence of this week is talking all about physical prosperity. How are we going to prosper and your body doesn't get invited to the party? You want to show up. You want to be there. On yesterday, we talked about the mystery of the soul-body connection. As one thing happens to one part of you, it's also happening to the other parts. Man is what? Body, soul, and spirit. But on day 17, today, the emphasis is on self-control. Man, that's something big. As a matter of fact, we want to go straight to the scriptures. Two scriptures we have in mind, Proverbs 25 and Proverbs 16. Let's start at 25 and then go to verse number 28. Here it is. Whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down and without walls. Can you imagine that? Remember in the days of old, they had to make sure they had enough fortitude. They had to make sure they had enough fort. They had to make sure they had enough coverage to protect them from enemies that would try to come in over their walls. And if they didn't have sufficient structure to keep the enemy out in the distance, those enemies could easily come in and take over their entire village. So it was very important in the days of old, and it's very important now. Just like that person who has no rule over his spirit. We're worse than that city that has no walls. In other words, we must have self-control. Because when we don't have self-control, we make ourselves susceptible to anything and everything to come in. We need a structure of protection to keep the wrong things out and the right things in. That's what self-control is all about. But then go to Proverbs chapter 16. Let's look at verse number 32. Proverbs chapter 16 and verse number 32. You gotta love this verse. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. Let's get this again. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. We put so much stock in the person that, has the loudest voice, who can go from 0 to 60 and, tell everybody off and set everybody straight. Hollywood is just fascinated with that individual like that. But the reality, that's not strength. Strength is being able to be in control, not out of control. And the world is really, when you think about it, upside down. And if you want to be right side up, you have to be in control of your spirit. But what is the key to self-control? I believe, as we discovered in our reading assignment, that the key to self-control is learning the value of the trade-off. I'm going to say it again. You must learn the value of the trade-off. See, many times the reason why we lose self-control and we don't control ourselves is because we think we're gaining something. But the reality is we're not gaining anything out of control. We're only losing it. Any gain is only temporary. I want you to think about that self-control as it relates to your mouth. How many times have you lost something? Maybe it felt good at the moment, but have you lost something? Respect or relationship with someone that was dear to you because you had no control, or didn't exercise it at least, over your mouth. What about your mood? How many times do we just allow ourselves, again, to go from one place and one space to the next because we are allowing the emotions and the moods to come and take us where we had no desire to go? Self-control. What about our money? Every time we go shopping, that card, it's so easy to put it on a card. But guess what happens 30 days later? That's right. You got to pay that bill. Self-control. And what about those marriages? How many of them have been ruined? How many divorces? How many separations? How many sleeping in the doghouse, whatever house you want to think of, have we been in because we didn't exercise self-control? Self-control is a big part of prospering in our soul. If you truly want a prosperous life, we cannot get there without self-control.